Hi guys, so I am going to try something this year that I've not done before, and it's called winter sowing. I love having lots and lots of plants in my landscaping. I'm going to do several videos about that and the process that I've gone through with this newer home over the past couple of summers and everything that I've been doing, the new area that I added this past year. And because I have now so many beds, I really want to have a lot of stuff to fill them up. And that gets very expensive. I spent a lot this year already on getting things, perennials and bushes and shrubs to, and some new trees that are ornamental. And I heard about this thing called winter sowing. So this is me going to try it. So over the next couple of videos, I will share with you the process of getting ready for it, and then putting everything into the containers. And then when hopefully things sprout in the spring, I'll share those results. But first we'll start with how am I getting all of it prepared? So I'm getting ready for what I think is step one of getting ready to winter sow. This will be my first time trying, so we'll see how this goes. But I think step one should be to drill a few holes in the bottom, and also I've read that it's a good idea to put a couple here on the sides. So that's going to be step one. We'll see how this goes. So I'm going to show you how I've so far been getting holes drilled in my jugs. And I've taken a couple ideas from a couple of the different people I did my research and online for how to do this winter sowing. One thing I've done is I drilled a hole just to the side of where the handle is so that I can get some little scissor thing in here to be able to cut. When I tried using my like a box cutter, I was not able to have the control and ease that I was when I used something like this to do the cuts, to go around and cut the jug open. So I'll try to show that here in just a minute. But then I used my drill, and I've drilled a hole a little ways up on each of the four corners because that was a little bit more stable. And then I drilled several holes on the bottom. I'm kind of guessing at how many holes you need exactly, but I figured that should be, something in approximately that configuration should give some good drainage. The milk jug does kind of flex some using the drill, so I definitely found it a lot easier to do the drilling before cutting. I did have one jug that I had tried cutting a couple weeks ago just to see, and you can see it's not very straight. I used the box cutter for that, and then I had to drill my holes after it was already cut because I didn't realize it was a lot harder to drill the holes in this jug than it was in all of the rest of these that I did before cutting them open. And so then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use these snips, and I just got these off of Amazon. I think the brand is Corona. And another person that got some information from when I was doing my research suggested having something kind of like this because the spring makes the snips open. So I only have to squeeze as I'm going around the jug, so it's going to save my hand a little bit. And I will say, after doing just the 40 or so jugs that I've got so far with the drill, my hand is already kind of sore, and I'm planning to keep collecting jugs for around 2 in a couple of weeks. So that's going to definitely save me to have something like this that is not requiring quite as much effort like a regular pair of scissors would. So let me see if I can prop my phone here and show you that. So that's not going to work. But the idea for how I'm going to cut these, let me back up for just a second. So this box, I had the idea because several of the posts that I read about winter sowing said when you go to make your holes, if you're using something like a drill, there's little bits of plastic that can go kind of all over the place. So I happen to have this box that is big enough that I've got a little room to wiggle, and all of the little plastic bits went in this box instead of all over my kitchen floor. So that, I think, was a super helpful thing to do. The other thing that was nice about this box, it's a great size actually for, also it helped with stabilizing the jugs. So as I was doing these four corners, I could kind of stabilize the box in that corner, but then when I went to do the bottom, I kind of propped it up in this corner, and I could use the box to help hold it still, and it gave me a little better leverage when I was drilling these holes on the bottom. It just stabilized the jug for me, so that was super helpful. So now I just need to take these snips, and I'm going to just cut all around from here, around the four sides, but I'm going to leave this part connected so that it'll end up making like a hinge, like, open this one up, like that. So it stays connected there. It gives me the handle to hold on to take this kind of as a lid on and off, and but still has plenty deep, because when you're winter sowing, everything I read says you want to be able to have at least 3 or 4 inches of soil, so that should give me that. On this one, I think I did cut maybe a little short back here, so I'm going to try on the rest of these to make sure that I'm cutting up as close to where the bottom of the handle is as possible. So when I drilled my holes, I tried to get it up very close here to where the bottom of the handle is. So now it's time for lots of cutting, making my lids, and then the next step will be getting them ready to actually start putting soil and things in there and actually doing my sowing. Okay, so I think I may have figured out a way to get some video of making the cuts. One suggestion that I saw online was, if you think that you're not going to be able to kind of eyeball keeping it straight, you could use a marker and draw a line around. That might be easier to do drawing it than cutting, but I'm going to just use this kind of as my guideline for where this curve is to get it started, and I don't think it'll be too hard to keep it straight, so just kind of go straight across here. And then I'm going to use the bottom of the jug on this side to help me eyeball keeping that line straight. And then again, kind of using the bottom of the jug. And then here I can use that label to get, again, close. And then you want to make sure that you leave enough to be able to have a hinge, but also get it down small enough that it will hinge open easily. So this hopefully will stay on throughout this whole process, but it gives me some good flexibility to get this open and closed. So while I'm cutting, just a couple of thoughts. I have gotten quite a few of my jugs from a local coffee shop down the street that, you know, obviously a coffee shop goes through lots and lots of milk. I just stopped in. I asked them, hey, would you guys be willing to save me your jugs? I'll stop by every couple days. They were very happy to do it for me at the one down the street. I checked at another one that's near where I work, and at that store location they were not, because they said they didn't have any place to put them where they would be out of sight. So it just depends. My philosophy is never hurts to ask. One of the times I stopped by, they had a half-gallon jug, which I wasn't intending originally to use, but I'm noticing that the handle is a lot higher on this than it feels like, on the gallon jugs. So what I'm going to try using these for, I've got just a couple of these. I also have a couple of like the cold drink cups from the coffee shop. And I'm going to try using these for some plants that I've read tend to have like a longer taproot, and because of that they maybe don't always transplant as well. I believe things like poppies and I'm not sure. I feel like there was some other. I'm going to have to go back and do some more research on that. I'm not an expert, but I thought these might be good for some plants like that. Obviously can't put as many seeds in here because there wouldn't be as much room, but if I've got some things that need more space for their root development, I think these might be a good option for that. And so I'm going to keep cutting. Like I've got quite a few left to do, but round one preparations are well underway. So there are lots of different types of jugs that you can use or containers, and I am going to try to stick with primarily milk jugs, or they're the same shape as if you have water jugs. I've seen a lot of people post suggestions if you know people who have a CPAP type machine or use distilled water for something, or just drinking water. They're the same type of jugs. But I recently had to do a medical procedure that required me to drink this liquid. It's called the procedure is a colonoscopy. Anybody who's of a certain age may have done this, but regardless, I was looking at this big jug after doing all of that preparation, and I thought, oh, that looks like that would be a great container for winter sowing. It's a little bit thicker plastic, so hopefully maybe it'll last even longer, more seasons, and it's a little bigger on the inside, so I can get more seeds in here, which I think is going to be hopefully great. Because there are a couple things that I'm planning to winter sow that I know I really would like to have a bunch of. So this may allow me to, in one container, get more seedlings ultimately, hopefully. So keep your eyes open. There are lots of different kinds of containers you can use. Other people I've seen have suggested using things like salad containers or takeout containers. The main thing is you want to make sure that it's going to give you enough space for at least 3 or 4. I'm going to err on the side of at least 4 inches of topsoil or potting soil, and also leave you some headroom. So the other type of container I do plan on using, because I have a lot of them from the last couple years of filling in flower beds in my new home, are the pots that you get when you plant things that you get from a nursery. So I have a bunch of those in the garage. But my plan, because if I use some that are smaller, there wouldn't be as much room for the plants to have headroom, is, and we'll see how this works. I'm going to try this tomorrow. I got some clear trash bags that are on the smaller side and some landscape staples. And my plan is to stick the staples in the pot and then put the garbage bag over top. And then I've got some big rubber bands to hold the plastic on, poke some holes in the plastic, and the pots would already have holes in the bottom. So that, in that sense, no having to drill. So that could be really handy. So we'll see how that goes tomorrow. That's one of the other types of containers I hope to use, is pots that I have left over from planting things in the flower beds, but adding the staples to give the plastic some headroom for those seedlings to grow. And depending on what size pots I use, I might be able to leave the seedlings in those pots a smidge longer than you traditionally would with winter sowing, allowing the plants to get a little bigger before I plant them out, and also give me a little more time, because I think I'm going to end up seedlings, because this is just my containers for round one. So we'll see. Okay, so a little less than 2 hours from when I started, all of my jugs have had holes drilled in them. They've all been cut open and on the hinge. Sorry. And couple other tips. I noticed that when I was cutting around them, when I had them over here on my table and was cutting them for the hinge, that after I had done a few of them, there were some little plastic bits on the table. So I realized, oh, some of the plastic must have gone inside the jug and not come out when I tipped it over in my box. So then the rest of them I did over the box, And that way all of the little plastic bits that may have fallen into the jug are now in the box. So it's just, I like to keep things tidy as I go instead of cleaning up after. So I think that helped with that. And so now tomorrow we'll be labeling and filling as many of them as I can. I've got a friend coming over to help. We're going to do it together. I am a big fan of redundancy. So I am going to be labeling my jugs in multiple ways. I am going to put a number with a garden marker on every jug, and based on several different people that I saw online when I did my research, they suggested using something like this. I got this from Amazon, and so that is, I'm going to put a number on all of these. I've made a big spreadsheet because I'm kind of a nerd, and where I put all of the names of the plants, where I got the seeds from, and then I'm going to try to keep track of some information like how well did it go, and that sort of thing. So I'm going to number each jug. I'll put that back in the spreadsheet so I have that way of keeping track of what's in each jug. But I'm also I got some white duct tape, so I'm going to put that on the bottom of each jug and write the name of what's in there. I saw that on a Winter Sowing Facebook group. Someone who is actually a person that came up with the idea originally of Winter Sowing, Trudy, I think it's David Obb. I'll put that on the screen if I messed that up. But she said in one of her posts, by putting a piece of tape across the bottom of the jug with the name on whatever it is that's in there, that those did not fade or get washed away by moisture by putting it on the bottom. So I've got some white duct tape to do that, but then I also have some little tags, little plant tags that I'm going to put inside the jug with the plants. And I may also use my paint markers on the inside of the jug in the top here and write the name there too. So I'll make a little video of all of that tomorrow, but that is my next step, is getting things labeled. Going to do that first before putting any dirt in the jugs so that that stuff doesn't get funky with potting soil. All right, see you on the next step.